So the first order tonight is nominations for chair. Are there any nominations for chair of the Mount Anthony Union School District Board of Directors?
Nominate Beth Mulligan.
Second. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations for chair? It's a single nominee. Do you wish, you as a group wish to elect by acclamation, say aye, raise your hand. Is that okay with everybody? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And any opposed? And any abstaining? It's your meeting. Once again. And Renee will support you with that.
Okay.
You go right here.
All right,
Yeah.
so now we move on to nominations for vice chair for Mount Anthony Union School District Board of Directors. Do we have any nominations?
I make a nomination as
Yes.
I nominate Scott McEnany as vice chair.
I second.
Are there any other nominations? Okay. If a single, okay, do you wish to elect by acclamation? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, opposed? All right. So we didn't do that. All right, and then we'll have nominations for clerk for Mount Anthony Union High School or Mount Anthony Union School Board of Directors. I have a nomination for clerk.
I'll nominate Katie.
I'll second that. Okay, but someone's gonna tell me what the clerk.
You really just write letters.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually. We provide help.
You get help.
We have support.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other nominations?
Yeah.
Do you wish to elect by acclamation?
Yes, check.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is this the next, so we're gonna nominate?
Yep,
Susan for
Yeah,
executive?
three,
What do you have to do tonight?
SVSU board representatives, we need to.
Okay, sorry.
And then you can wait on this part if you want.
Okay, I wanna ask, yeah,
Yes.
okay.
But this one we need to do tonight.
Okay, so nominations are in order for representatives of the SVSU Board of Directors for Mount Anthony Union Schools District Board of Directors. 3 need to be elected to the SVSU Board. I have a nomination. Are there any nominations?
And then make Scott.
Any other nominations?
Nominate Katie.
Now, this one I really do want to do.
Okay.
Can we do all three?
Can we do all three?
Or we do, yeah, we can do 3. So do we want to have, is there a third nomination?
Yeah.
I'll
Nominate Glenn.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Okay, if not-
Not this time. Good.
Okay, if not, nominations are closed. I guess that, all in favor?
We didn't second them.
We didn't have second, okay, or,
So I second Scott, I
okay.
second Katie, and I
We have
second
this
Brian.
for- so that's- Yeah, it just sucks I was butting down. So can I just?
So you can just.
All right, so I can,
I'll-
so
I'll-
we have a
I'll-
nomination and second for all 3 members for the SVSU board. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? All right, we are all set. The next section is committee assignments. I'd like to reserve the committee assignments to get feedback from where people on the board want to be, and then discuss them. I don't know if we can discuss them under chair's report, and post them. Do they have to be assigned during this meeting or?
No, you
Okay,
can.
and we could just
Yeah.
decide under the chair's report and then post them to the public. Does that sound good to the group? All right. So moving on, we have the procedure for executing contracts.
So this comes up annually at our reorganization meetings. And so per section 16, statute, chapter 16, section 563, powers of the school board. The chair or any person designated whose appointment is recorded in the minutes of the board may exercise or may execute contracts. So this came about through a monitoring visit we had several years ago with the Agency of Education. And believe it or not, they asked why I was signing purchase orders. And they technically consider that a contract. And they said, if you haven't been authorized by the board to sign the contract, then we need to basically have this documented. So annually, we ask the board to do this. The motion, I can read it, or it's something that our legal counsel came up with. And it is really just to basically process the normal daily operations of the school district. So I'll read this and then you guys can discuss. So it would be a motion to authorize the superintendent or his or her designee to execute on behalf of the school district purchase orders, agreements for consulting services, grant agreements, and other contracts arising affecting the routine operation of the Mount Anthony Union High School District number 14. The superintendent or designee shall not execute any contracts resulting from a public bid process, any employment agreements, and any long-term contracts without express authority from the board.
Can I have a motion for, to approve, or actually, I'm sorry, can I have a motion, that Renee just recited?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, all right. And the next is moving on is authorization of chair, vice chair to approve off-cycle warrants.
So we, as the Mount Anthony Union High School board, we typically do have 2 warrants per month. Unfortunately, when our electric bills come in, we always miss the regular monthly warrant that goes in the packet. So we do run twice a month on those off-cycle warrants. When the board is not meeting, I will send that out to the chair and vice chair, typically for review and authorization for those payments to be released. But the board as a whole has to authorize the chair and vice chair to be able to do that. So that's what we're asking this board to consider, if they would authorize the chair and vice chair that authority to do that.
I make a motion to allow chair and vice chair to sign off cycle warrants.
Second. All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to public comments. Anyone?
There's not anyone on the screen.
Okay, we'll move on to finance. In the fact that there's a treasurer's report, January of 2024 and February, I believe February was posted. Is it?
It may have that right. Actually, I think I did see it on there today.
Can I have a motion to approve the reports as presented? Any discussion? All in favor? We will move on to operations. Exterior murals discussion.
So Bruce, did you bring pictures?
I did not.
Yeah, so in the original design for the middle school, there's areas that are designated to receive murals. The art teacher and her team at the middle school have asked for board permission to put up murals. They're very Vermont centric. I'm happy to share some of the renderings with you, but they're meant to be posted, and then the artwork be revolving year after year. So wondering if the board would approve us to put murals on the sections of the building design for murals.
Could I just speak a few words to that? Would that be okay? Yeah, I just wanted the board to know that as building principal, I support the murals 100%. Obviously, we're here for permission from the board, but from my end, I support moving forward with it. I have reviewed the renderings, and nothing would be put up without Holly and I seeing those. We could share those with the board if need be. But they're Vermont themed, they're animals, there's stuff for the monument. They're all they're great, and the areas on the building, my understanding, there's these concrete, square, I probably could call it what it is much better than myself, but there's these concrete squares all around the exterior of the building. My understanding is that they were built with the intention of this. This was the purpose of them. And, we're 20 years in and, there's still slabs on the outside of the building. It's gonna be a really nice way to liven it up and give it a nice feel. So,
Are they smooth enough to paint on?
that piece of it is out of my expertise, but my understanding is that they were built for this purpose. And, Holly and Tony D'Onofrio are working with us to make sure that we're using materials that, will upstand the elements and such, because they're exterior.
Can I have a motion to approve the request for murals? We have a motion on the table, any discussion?
Actually,
Yeah.
are the students gonna be participating?
So they are, it's a mural, so there's a mural club. So they've been working on the renderings for the exterior. We've allowed them to move forward with some interior murals. But, putting those on the exterior of the building, we got the feedback that this would be the place to go.
Any other discussion? And then, we have a motion on the table, all in favor?
Love to have you guys come check them out sometime when they're.
Yeah, I'd love to see pictures.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Thank you.
We're gonna move on to the consent agenda. We have, minutes, warrants, retirements, leaves of absence, resignations, and nominations. Is the group okay with approving?
Make a motion to approve.
Any discussion?
Been with us for 21 years. Leaving. Custodial staff from the middle school. One of the gentlemen there has been there 21 years and said that's a long time. It should be in order for us to that recognition from the board for service, because they've done a tremendous job over the time with that middle school and summer, taking care of things.
First assignment, Katie.
This is something that I'm gonna have to do.
We can help.
Any other discussion items? All in favor? We have to have in the minutes that we or letter that says there's something that we're all okay.
I think we could amend the
We could
motion
amend
to say that
this.
we want to make sure that there's a letter from the board. Authorizing the clerk to write a letter on behalf of the board. of
Okay.
Appreciation for the 21 years of service from Mr.
Yep.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good motion. Is there a second? With that motion on the table, so we're approving the warrant, the consent agenda with the additional that the clerk will be writing a letter of recognition to our retirement. All in favor? Opposed? Superintendent's report.
That's. Hello, everybody. Glad to be here tonight. So I'm the assistant superintendent, and it is grant season. So my update for you tonight is around, you're welcome, grants. Renee and I are going to give you, oh, there you go. You're welcome. So every year you finish budget season and we enter grant season. And a couple of you have heard this, but through the lens of a different board. So This is grant season for Renee and I, and a lot of the people that work with us in our departments. And so we're here tonight to provide you with some updates. And answer any questions you might have. So this is similar to previous years when we provided this presentation to you. And this first one we're highlighting is ESSER money. This particular grant used to take up 3 pages, but we are on the last ESSER grant, ESSER 3, which expires in September 30th of 2024. And you can see that we received a little bit over $17 million for ESSER 3. And below that, you can see the investments through the recovery process, where we did meaningful consultation with our community, with our staff, to collect ideas. And that happened 3 years ago, actually. And so we're nearing the end, and every year we're required to update you if there's been any changes. So what Renee Gordon, the Director of Finance, has highlighted in red, we've only had two small little changes to ESSER 3. So most of the money, again, is spent on after-school programming to support hours outside of contracted hours and materials. Robotics was a hot item. A lot of that money was focused at the middle level and in the 6th grades around the district. Summer programming, access to professional learning and trainings. And so under that area, there's a last little bit of funding we're using to support some technology, last minute technology purchases, one of which will support the middle school with your Chromebooks, which is what we're working on right now. I can't believe I'm saying that because they were massive purchases at the beginning. So we're already at a place where technology is always changing. And then I will let Renee talk about the design one.
Yeah, so at the outset of the ARP ESSER funding, we actually did have the design and the construction in there. I just always had it labeled as construction. So I just wanted to be clear that it does include our architectural and engineering services as well.
Okay. And then finally, funding was used to support the work of curriculum teams to identify evidence-based practices. We also you can see that we're always looking for things to support our tiered system to make sure that all students have access to the instruction and materials that they need. If you flip to the next page, so this is actually title season. So title money, we get 3 buckets of money. Title 1 is part of improving the academic achievement of the disadvantaged. Title 2 supports effective instruction. That's a lot of our professional learning money. And Title 4 is all about supporting student support and academic enrichment. That's that really funny pocket of title money, which is for well-rounded education, technology, and safe and healthy schools. And so our allocation this current year is a little over $4 million for the entire SVSU. And so there's a school-wide, so we are allowed to pool our title money because all 10 of our schools are school-wide schools and meet the threshold for that designation, which is 40% low income. So we can actually break out for you for the middle school and the high school how money's allocated. And what this process looks like, which is starting now, is I spent some time with both principals who have spent time with their leadership teams in their building. And we also have a link on our website. So if there's community members listening and they have ideas or want to talk more about how this money can be spent, they're always welcome to reach out. But we wanted you to know exactly where the money is going in terms of these 2 schools. Some of it's for staffing, primarily to support reading and math intervention. And then both Principal Payne and Principal McGuire also use money to fund hours outside of contracted hours for staff to work on different initiatives. And then we have, I do want to pause. We were also this year able to, which we've referenced before, but I want to highlight, use Title IV money for a restorative practices outside consultant through the Center for Restorative Justice. And I really want to thank Mr. Payne and Mr. McGuire for working closely with the Center for Restorative Justice to make that human being happen, who's shared between both buildings. And that's Title IV money, which is really cool. So it helps you to plant seeds. If I scroll down a little bit. And then we have some district-wide investments. Title I is where we get funding to support tutoring services. We work very closely with the Tutorial Center and their director, Shamri Oler, to make sure that our students have access to this resource. We have bigger investments through Title IV for all of the art teachers in the district and all of the music teachers in the district. And then there's access to a variety of coaches that specialize in specific areas. The next big grant that's in season right now in the planning phase is IDEAB, which is funding through the Individuals with Disabilities Act to support the provision of services for learners with identified disabilities. And we have a little over $1.5 million. Both Title and IDEAB run from June 30th to July 1. So ESSER runs out September 30th. So you can see nothing lines up. But so we work very hard to have team members monitoring how our grants run. And IDEAB runs a little bit differently. So a lot of our staff are that support students with that might have special needs can be found here. So it just gives you an example of the different resources that can be funded. And then the last big bucket of money, and this is, so if you were part of the last budgeting season, this was actually an ask at the SVSU meeting. So this part of the presentation, you might have seen at that piece, but we do have 2 buckets of Medicaid money, which is primarily always focused on preventative work. So we have Medicaid rolling reimbursements, which we have Medicaid clerks that are doing reviews and collecting that information so we can receive this money. A big chunk of this money actually goes towards our audiologist, which we're so lucky to have in this district. So lucky to have in this district. The sound systems in our schools right now are unbelievable. So we're so lucky. So a lot of this and money is used for that. Just to give you an example. I'm gonna have you scroll down. And then the last bucket of grant money, and we, I think, are submitting this kind of today. We got signed today. So this is called the Medicaid Administrative Claiming Annual Reinvestment Plan. We call it MAC grant. And it's in a partnership with the Department of Health. So we have a liaison right across the parking lot. She comes and she hangs out with us. We have a health and wellness team. That's a requirement of this grant. And so we receive about $128,000 a year. It's a pretty steady rate. And then the team, the health and wellness team, there's actually a policy that we have, helps to plan how we use that money. And again, you can see, I think the really cool one this year is the doctor hours at the secondary level, which has provided access to medical services right on site. So we were able to set that up and use this grant. So that could be like if a child wants to do a sport and they need a physical and they can't get in somewhere, we can do it right on site. So, and that came from this team of professionals, which is really cool. And then again, always our 802 Smiles Tooth Tutors that travel all around the district to make sure that our students have oral health. And then other, well, a lot of wellness activities. So again, our goal tonight was just to give you an update. And I would say if anybody here has ideas or has more questions linked to any of these grants, there are 2 things you can do. You can go to our website, and I think under About Us, there is information about ESSER and recovery, and there's a button there where you can put in feedback. There's also a title button on the website where you can, again, reach out and share ideas with me. You can reach me here. So I'm Laura Boudreaux, I'm the Assistant Superintendent, at 802-447-7501, because again, we want our community to be involved in this process as well. Does anybody have any questions? From there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We have policies, but I don't believe we have anything. So we'll move on to the next. Item for discussion, I asked, the superintendent to put this on the agenda is the Spinelli Field discussion. So, as everyone knows, the Spinelli Field vote for the bond did not pass. And what I wanted to do is have a discussion with board members about where we should go from here. And, in terms of like how we want to address it, if we want to address it. So that's probably what this space is for. And I did ask for an action request on it in the event that we determined that we wanted to go in a direction and wanted to make a motion. So that is what this agenda is. Is anyone?
First thing, if it's form a committee, or make it a new committee.
I mean, I think that's what I'm asking. Like, I'm asking the group personally. I want to let you, like, other people have, I have many thoughts, but I would personally like to see the committee stay the same and make some decisions, but I guess I want to hear what else.
So I guess my recommendation is, first of all, it's not like it was so far off. Like that 41 vote difference. 80, but 40 of those went 41 of them went the other way. My understanding it was a pretty low attended vote too, like in terms of people who came out to vote. I don't necessarily think we should let it go. It's something that is sorely needed. There's no question that it's sorely needed. I think we need to kind of maybe potentially to have that committee come back together, kind of talk about different options in terms of how to get at what we're trying to accomplish. I don't know if it's necessary to reinvent the wheel in terms of, doing all the back research again, because I mean, how many times are we going to complete that same research? We know, why we went from turf instead of grass. I think we, communicated that pretty effectively. And I think we've narrowed it down to the most essential items in terms of letting go some of the nice to haves. So I think we may want to reconsider another option. I personally think that, my personal opinion, that it would be something that we can consider on the November ballot, considering it's an election year and you're going to have a significant amount of people coming out. So we will definitely have the numbers. But what that looks like and what we put on the ballot, I think needs to be part of that discussion that committee has. And financially, what it looks like and how much we're asking for. And if the committee wants to come back to the board and see what options we have in terms of reserve money or whatnot. But I do think that having that committee come together and regroup would be a potential plan for the future.
I'll second that. I think we should not give up. We should try again.
I think I'll just go a little bit off of what Sheila was just saying. Certainly recommend the committee comes back to the board with their thoughts. I might throw a counter out there in that I believe we're allowed to vote on this 2 times in a calendar year.
Yes.
41 votes. I believe it passed in some towns. It did not pass in others.
That was not supposed to be released.
Well, it was. And so, I think it's not very many votes. I ton of credit to the work that the committee has done to help explain the benefits of this. It was really close. It's closer than the last time. I think we need to, I would support, if the committee were to come back and make a recommendation that it's a sooner vote, meaning it's done in June, and we do a special vote for it, I would support it. Just because I don't want the don't want the work to slow. I don't want the effort to slow. I want to send a message to the kids sooner, and I want to position ourselves to get to work on it as soon as possible. And I fear making a decision shortly before winter doesn't allow for some of the prep work that I think would need to be done in order to start work when things warm up.
And my only thought to kind of go back on that is the reason I was saying November is because we only have one more shot at this calendar year. I feel like part of the reason maybe it didn't pass the first time was because it was a special vote and we had very little people that came out. That's my concern, like getting the people out to the ballots is the biggest issue. And if you're, and I do agree with you, we're definitely cutting it close if we wait till November. But the good news about it is we already are working on the what is it called? I can never remember it. The geotechnical. The geotechnical, and we could work on getting the permits pretty quickly after the vote. And then we wouldn't be breaking ground because of winter until spring anyway. So we do have some time.
I should have also, I started to go down the path. I think the effort that had been put out there to help people understand the reasons why we needed to do this and the benefits of the project were awesome. I think now, having heard people afterwards saying, oh, well, I didn't know that, or I didn't know that, or I didn't know that, there's probably things that we could do knowing what we did already to say, maybe there's 3 full-page ads in a banner, maybe there's a Facebook ad campaign that is specifically, who knows what it might be, but we take the data that we know. Sure.
Of course.
What about having like meetings at the other schools? Like going around the community with informational meetings as well? Like I'm just trying to.
Yeah.
Other ways to get people to be able to hear the
Understand it.
information.
Right. So we can build off of what has been done already, and I would like to think 41 votes can go in the direction that we would want it to.
Well, yeah, and I think it's really important to understand, because the people that I've talked to since then, that were very clearly telling me why, that they voted no. Everyone I talked to was stating it was for the financial reasons. Like, yes, we know we need this, but the financial part. So I think really making sure we get a really good sense of why people voted no, and then target it based on that. I don't know if that looks like a survey that's put out there. I'm
It's
not.
hard with those, with the language that's required by statute.
Exactly,
But,
so
you know,
really sort of tailoring that campaign to focus on that financial piece and the financial benefits and really explaining it
Explain
I think
the other bonds.
could
that
be
are
super
on.
helpful,
Yeah.
for sure.
And the other advantage of waiting till November is that you have a whole bunch of seniors turning 18 come September.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, it's more votes.
I guess I want to hear from I want to make sure that everybody has a thought about it. Glenn, do you have, or Leon? Do you have thoughts about the direction we go?
About what we want. Problem is that 2 or 3 times before, when I met with the particular people that were responsible for talking about and experts in putting forth a third type of information that we need to have to do that, we need to answer those particular questions. I mean, I know we made an effort to do that. I mean, the previous time we went too fast, and that's what the experts said, that if we go out too fast, that was going to happen. This time we did a real good job of getting the information, but we still need to address those issue bases that people are still talking about money along that line. That's the biggest issue. So switch from getting help from the state to just putting the burden totally on the taxpayers. And so that was a real issue that I heard everybody saying, wait a minute, You're just saying that I can't get any support anywhere else. You're just asking me to say, put it for you anyway. And I'm having all these other kind of things out there. So those are the people that you gotta go after to be able to change their mind and what it is that they're gonna be able to give up and sacrifice to be able to make this happen. Because they'll just say, well, it was voted once and it was voted twice, and you're still gonna keep going. When does it end? At what point? If we hadn't passed it in 2 or 3 times or whatever along that line, so you gotta make sure we cover that.
I mean, perhaps clarification and education might help, so the person that feels that if we were saying that we couldn't find other avenues, it's just that with the bond vote, the way that it was, like the way we have to ask, like we have to ask up to that amount of money. It doesn't mean that we couldn't come in with private funders or other, but we can't do, we have to ask for the amount that we need. And so I guess, Glenn, do you have?
Just like a final, I think like a final drill down of what like a net number looks like to a household. You know, obviously you can't nail it down to a singular dollar.
Yeah.
But if you present somebody with 3 to 5 options of how this is gonna look and what the net effect is on them financially, that's giving them an education. I think you have an opportunity for buying that.
So I spent a lot of time spiraling because the property tax, like our property tax system is incredibly complex in the state of Vermont. And, I think that, when, and Vinnie, you can probably speak to this more, but like when we're discussing like the increases to property taxes, especially school, we're not talking about the increase, like the impact of the property tax adjustment claim system and or the renter's rebate system that is the way that the state redistributes income or redistributes, tax across the state in order to make sure that people are meeting like in in a house that they can afford based on their income. So some of but it's like everybody, that's also confidential information. I would probably guess, I think we can probably see the amount of dollars that are redistributed and guess, make an educated guess as to how many people in our community are actually not paying, are having their tax adjusted because of the way that the state redistributes those funds. And they're not redistributing the funds in our community that I know of, but this is a statewide, it is after, the budget
It's a
starts.
it's a statewide system, but I think we should easily be able to reach out to each municipality and have them tell us
Yeah.
what they actually get to supplement folks' tax bills.
So I think that for me, I just started going down that route. It was, it's something that no one, we frequently don't talk about in budget season, but it's very present in tax season. So I would encourage people to look at the right-hand corner of the property tax bill and see if you're benefiting from that. It's a great program that Vermont does, and do you have I just want to make sure.
I mean, my only other comment about this is that I think that we need to perhaps reframe the concept of the cost as, instead of just being a cost, it's an investment. Because we're investing in our students, we're investing in our community, we're investing in our property values, right? Like, we just went through a bunch of COVID refugees moving to this state. They didn't move here. They didn't move here because they didn't see the investment in our community. So that's something that we have to think about.
So, I mean, for me, I feel like the committee can come back together, and maybe the charge for the committee is determining how we reframe some of the messages moving forward, not necessarily reframing what we're going after, because I think we know that, but as a committee, we can determine what does that education look like? How do we continue that education? Like Scott said, do we have additional banner posts? Do we potentially get a booth at Mayfest and have a 1-pager that we can hand out? Like, there's so many different little ways that we can get out into the community. But how do we potentially set up time with the different schools across our district, and what does that look like? What does that timing? So I think that's what I would be comfortable from a board perspective, having that committee come back and do and figure out what we're gonna be asking for. And then, like you said, reframing some of that financial, like really focusing on the fact that, yes, we're asking up to this amount, but that doesn't necessarily, I think that message was lost a lot, is that we can't fundraise for something that we don't have already in the works. So once we have the project and it has a bond, then we can go and look for grants. We can go and get personal fundraising. We can go try to subsidize that money. I think we did talk about it in our informational sessions. Did we have the numbers that we wanted at the informational sessions? Probably not. Could we get more people, have more informational sessions? Maybe, have something videotaped, do something with Cat TV potentially. Like, I think that's what we need to focus on now, I think, is the education point, and then figure out as a committee when that vote is, and then come to the board with our recommendations of what that looks like.
And I think that something that would also be helpful in terms of advertising this to the community is making sure that people know that there is student support behind this, because even though I know that there's student support behind this, I think it comes across as very much an adult-driven, movement, I guess, and I think having students either come out and speak or videotape themselves and then just play that, I think having people know that the entire student population wants this to happen. I'm not even a student athlete and I want this to happen because I know how much it affects my peers and school spirit, because it's, kind of sad to go to a game and just there's mud everywhere and it's just not nice. So I think that having people know that students really want this to happen. We were all really disappointed when it didn't pass. The day after the vote, we were all, it passed. Oh, we were all talking about it all day long. So I think I think having that element to it is important as well.
That's a great idea.
I mean, my personal preference is that, I think it's about education. I think there was a lot of energy and a lot of additional education after the vote that was done. I would probably prefer to go out faster with, we've had a lot of discussion with community members and they're referencing the reserve fund or whatever that, coming up. And I think I would find it less responsible for us as a board to take $1 million of reserve fund that Renee needs for tax stabilization for our future or some other emergency thing that we need when we can continue to educate and get this financed properly. This isn't.
It's an important point. You can take $1 million from the reserve fund and you can put $2 million into our operating budget.
Right.
And people can see what that impact will have on their taxes. Or you can do it in a up to $3 million bond and let people see the impact that would have on their taxes. And those are two very tangible numbers. You forget about the people who want to argue we don't need it, right? This is about the people. We can bridge the divide by the people who think it's just gonna cost them more money on their taxes and at least show them that there's two options, one of which isn't really gonna have all that much of an impact. The other would substantially more.
Could have a really negative impact.
And risks financial stability in the future by robbing from that fund that allows for us to create stability.
That's my opinion, is that how you would.
I know
You
can't
don't
an
have a
opinion,
crystal
but,
ball, right? You never know. And we saw what happened this year, when we got into trying to see what the tax rates were gonna look like and the common level of appraisal, $1 million might not help that much, so we could use that all in 1 year and it might just barely move the needle. So it would be lovely to actually try to build that fund up as opposed to robbing it, but.
And I feel like that's more, for me, I would feel better.
I agree with that.
If you this year or something.
Steph, did you want to share what, so Cassie had
Oh,
reached out,
yes.
Our district clerk,
Mhm.
with some information about elections. So there is a state primary in August. She said typically voter turnout is incredibly low, lower than town meeting day. There's also the November general election, but she did advise that ballots will be mailed in some instances. And they automatically will be mailed, I think, for folks that have already signed up for absentees. So they typically have a really low voter turnout at the polls that day as well. And then I did have my staff run today for me just an idea as to what it cost us when we did have the special election in November of 21. And taking all the towns into account, having all the polls open, feeding the poll workers, paying the poll workers, it was about $3,800.
So when Cassie said that about the absentee, she's not counting the absentee into the numbers, like, I guess what's the number of votes?
So these people that get the absentee automatically from the state
Mhm.
wouldn't get our ballot because we would have to mail it separately.
Gotcha.
I see,
Gotcha.
I see.
I didn't realize that.
It will not go together.
It's a little bit of a wrinkle.
I mean, I guess the question is, do we have the committee meet, talk about it and come back?
Mhm.
And at this point, are we agreeing that we're gonna just talk about how we're gonna educate and when we're gonna vote? Does that make sense? And I personally would hope that the committee would look at an earlier special election rather than, when everyone kind of forgets in summer and the chaos of going back to school in the August and the November election, could be. But that would be my preference, personal preference.
I was just thinking of numbers, but it sounds like you don't get the numbers because of the absentee. So then if there wouldn't be a benefit to waiting that long. That was my only thought process, was trying to get as many people to actually be out there and vote on it. But if we don't have a good turnout, then it
And if I
doesn't.
could add one more thing, we still have to go out to bid.
Yes.
So
Right.
we've got this long process that has to happen. And by the time we did that, we could be well into the spring and then companies might not want to bid on it
Right.
because they're already committed for other projects. So it could just be really extending out at least another year before we could do it. So I guess it's just something to consider too, is that we still have a lot of work to do between actually breaking ground and the go ahead.
Right.
That we actually have an approved project, like the community is willing to pay for it. Now we can go to design and then we can go out to bid and then we can get a contractor and then we can actually go out to the bond market and secure the financing. So there's a lot to do between now and then. And I know that the committee and the board just wanted to make sure that the community was on board with it, so we could then start that process.
Makes sense.
So from the time that the board decides to go forward, if we did have a special election, what time are we looking? We obviously have the same meetings at the warning and.
Yeah, we're looking bound by the same time frame, so we have to warn it 30 to 40 days. We have to have the public information hearing no more than 10 days, no fewer than 5 days before the actual vote. There's a series of other, publications that we have to do as well, and then there's also, that necessity resolution that the board, acted upon. We'll have to, just modify that a little bit because we have to, obviously take into account the date change, but also I think there's language, about the vote being defeated initially, from what I understand from legal counsel.
Yes, I'm good at the informational hearings. Okay, so we don't need an action, do we, at this point? I don't feel like, should we have an action to ask the committee to go? I guess I wasn't around.
As long as the committee didn't dissolve after, right? I mean, the
I don't-
committee's still.
We're not dissolved.
But the one, there are there new members to the committee based on board reorg?
There would need to be one replacement, yeah.
Or Susan could be.
Or Susan could be, yes,
Could be-
yes, yes.
She could switch roles and
Right,
that was,
that's
if
true,
that worked
yeah.
for, and to keep the consistency.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I wasn't, did we vote on the committee or was it just, okay, so if it's not dissolved and we switch roles and we have the makeup that's appropriate, then so we just move forward.
Everyone's comfortable with
Can I
that.
just ask a question? Are there students on the committee?
We're offered to have students, but we don't have any student volunteers as of yet.
Well, we started 4 years ago, and I think the initial one we had was right before COVID, and they've since graduated and almost graduated college now, so
Right.
I think we'd be ready to add back, and it's
Yeah.
open to the public, students can come, but we decided when we came back, start this process again, and not really change the committee up, just reorganize 2 members worth.
So if there are students.
Yes,
like
if you know of any
this-
students,
Well,
let them know.
We'll let people know.
Okay, so we don't need an action, then we'll come back to the board. Perfect, thank you. Moving on. Administrators report, we have a student representative.
All right, so first of all, on Thursday and Friday of last week, we had our annual Pops concert, which went very well. Everything was great. Yeah, we haven't, it's been, the last couple of years have been odd because we, didn't have one because of COVID, and then we didn't have one last year either. It ended up canceled. Or something. Anyways, so very exciting. We're glad to have it back. Went very well.
The NU Patriot Players is performing Honk the Musical on April 4th, 5th, and 6th. And it's going to be open for the local middle schools and elementary schools to come see it at the high school, like during school. As well as middle schoolers and elementary schoolers are in the show. They're going to be performing in it. So if you or any family members would like to come watch the Tale of the Ugly Duckling, you can come see it. So please spread the news. Tickets, I believe, are going on sale next Monday on the 25th. So please come see it.
We also have a collection of students going to the New England Festival tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday. So it's like they are in a chorus of students. They have to audition. So it's like 5 of them, I think. Don't quote me on that. Auditioned and were selected to participate in this choir of students from around New England. So that's very exciting.
Spring sports are starting next week. Arts are happening. So expect a lot of new games and matches to come to. Oh, and the spring fling is this Friday on the 22nd. Tickets have been on sale all week, and they have been selling.
And we, so I don't know if you guys noticed, but it was kind of nasty out yesterday morning. And we just wanted to bring to the board's and the superintendent's attention that at least 5 students were in car accidents yesterday morning on their way to school due to the weather. And 2 buses were late to the high school yesterday morning. So we just wanted to let everyone know that. And that is the end of our summary. So
Regarding the Pops concert, first off, I enjoyed your solo. Second off, I'd like to recommend our clerk write a letter to Little Sweet. I'm amazed at the large number of students that participate in music, and obviously it's got to be great for self-confidence. I think she does a great job, and I think we should acknowledge that. And while I'm on a roll,
I nominate.
Start catching elbows over here.
I'd like to also send a letter to Frank Gaudet Wrestling. His continually the excellence of our program in wrestling. So could I don't know what I do, throw that out there. Are you approving that? Those 2 letters?
Can we make it a motion to approve 2 letters?
That's not on the. I mean, I think that's.
Probably something that probably doesn't even need a motion.
Right.
Who's the other guy?
It was Sweet.
She's the music.
Who? Miss Sweet. Sweet.
Miss Sweet.
Miss Sweet.
Here's
She's the,
there's all the concerts there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just have two announcements for this evening for the board. Next week, we will be doing state testing. This is the Vermont CAP test. Letters have been mailed to all families. We are going to be following a schedule that folks who have been at the MAU are familiar with, which is a delayed start for the entire week. Graders take the state test in mathematics and ELA. They take that test Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. 11th graders take a science test Thursday and Friday. If you're a 10th grader or a 12th grader, your day starts at 9:50 on the days that tests are going on. It's not like middle school where we test everybody. So it's a little bit of a mix. The bus company will run a bus at the usual time in the morning for the regular scheduled morning run that arrives prior to 7:45 start. It'll run a second run for the delayed 2-hour delay for 10th and 12th graders, and on Sundays, 11th graders who need a ride to school. And there will be a bus all the way home at the end of the regular scheduled day, which is a 2:05 release for us. Students will be attending all classes. We just do a shortened day. We treat this like it's a delayed start to the day. So it does impact our friends in the Southwest Tech. Meg came over to give me her feedback. I look forward to more of it as we have a regularly scheduled admin meeting in the morning. So that is something that we're working on going forward. The second event that's multi-day is the accreditation team. This is the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. We've been talking about this for a couple of months at the board level. This is the rescheduled visit. Originally, they were supposed to come March, I guess, March. So they have picked a date. They will be arriving on Sunday, April the 7th. The team actually gathers locally. They go through a training. For the purposes of this evening, I have brought handouts, which I will make available to the associate superintendent. So your copy, and then I only made 6 copies. I apologize for that. We can sort them out. The first is a summary.
I'm taking.
This is for the chairs. Those are for them too. So it looks like this. Sorry, for board members. So it gives you a sense of a bit of a profile. But more importantly, as you go through, there are 4 priority areas. This team will come and gather evidence and then write a report to give us feedback on. Chad had to sit for my presentation.
No chat?
One's enough. So I share this with folks. There are 4 areas. You will not be quizzed, but basically, this is a 10 for those folks who are new. This is a 10-year cycle that we go through as a high school. So there are visits and reports written over a 10-year. This is called a decennial visit, kind of the big one. You bring a team to build them. So as a school, we identified 4 areas because NEASC has its own set of standards that we wanted to work in. The first was developing a vision of a graduate. What do we want students to be able to do upon graduation and make going forward? The second one is providing a social emotional support system, especially in the years that we're moving past COVID. We all are hearing more and more about students struggling with social emotional readiness to come to school and learn. We definitely seeing that at our school. And so we talk about how we use our flex block and what we do during that time period to help prepare students. The third area is the flexible pathways. So we're working on kind of we're not trying to develop more pathways at this point, but more clearly identifying them for our community and for our students. They know what's available to them. And then the last one, NEASC would like to see a map, consistent document across grade levels and across subject areas that would be available to students, to their families, to the community, to new teachers, to anybody that would understand that, oh, you offer this course. What are the overarching goals for it? What are the units looking for? It's been a good exercise. I would say all 4 of these areas are not completed. They are works in progress, which is the expectation, and we ask that they will come back in a couple of years, and I'll ask again, how are you doing? Can you take something off the shelf? Can you put a new goal on there? So a lot of work has gone into this. I have two outstanding chairs, Katie Contrada and Ashley Lewis. Katie is a longtime history teacher at the high school. She's also softball coach. Ashley is a counselor at the high school and a new mom, so I appreciate her balancing all of those demands. Done a great job guiding us, and we're very excited that the team's gonna, well, I shouldn't say it out loud, they're planning to show up. The second piece that I handed out to folks is a calendar. You only got the top sheet. I just figured I won't burden you with the day-to-day agenda. But what you'll notice, and this is for the chair and the superintendent, on Sunday, the 7th at 5 o'clock, there will be a Zoom link provided. And the chair and the superintendent are requested to make board members available to meet with the visiting team. It's not a quiz, you won't be graded, really what they're doing. I participated in one of these team visits in December, we went to Woodstock. And you kind of get a sense of where the board feels the school is going, what are the priorities, what are the things that you feel that you're doing well. So there's no, highly technical questions, it's more open to feedback. And it is the team's responsibility to gather classroom observations, examples of student work, talking to student groups, talking to faculties, talking to the board, and compiling a report which they will then make available to the school and to the superintendent who would follow up with that. But we've been preparing for this for a while. Like I said, we're at the point now, we're just ready to get it going. So if I have time, I would just ask for one other thing in regards to thanks for coaches. I am a parent. My youngest will graduate hopefully in June.
You had a good shot at it.
I just want to say thank you to Robbie Short, who is the longtime coach of the Nordic ski team. My three kids have all benefited from his guidance. I appreciate the fact that he is not only a leader in Southern Vermont League, but also statewide and New England. He gives countless hours to way beyond the regular season, and as a result, he's had a very successful program. We had a student participate in the Junior Nationals, which is the top category for high school skiers, Luke Rizzio. Robbie sent 5 athletes to the New England team, so it's a very successful program, and I just want to thank him on behalf of my family and my students for all the things that he's done to make our MA experience outstanding. So there's no need to write a letter.
I've got enough.
I will take care of that.
Tim, I suit up, or they suit up, and he has great rapport with those kids. And I'm over putting my shoes on in the corner, you can tell that he does a nice job.
Yeah, from
I'm
7th
surprised
grade.
we don't have more girls because it's a very welcoming environment.
We're in the process of recruiting.
It's a challenging sport for parents and
It is.
for middle school, still children in particular, that we, as a district don't provide access to get people to the mountains and the schedules are frequently changing. So I think it's hard to pick up the 7th and 8th grade kids. My kids are also on that. And I think what Rob does with the group from 7th all the way to 12th is amazing. And I did notice that he does it all for $1,000, line item budget in his, the Nordic team, fundraises for the majority of it. So it's I find it very impressive. I think that was his budget line item.
Oh, the budget, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
not sure
not
what
his
his
pay, but the budget, yeah.
stipend is.
No, the budget, so.
Yeah, it's worth noting, I mean, he's got some really successful skiers. And the same would be true for any one of the athletics and many of the coaches, but he's got some very successful skiers. And I think I was most struck by witnessing two this year never ever skied 8th graders, and the amount of personal instruction and time that Rob gave those 2 new skiers, even with having all of the other older kids out there was really it was noticeable, it was striking, and it was one of the things that I think, just echoing what's being said, makes him special as a coach. Is tremendous amount of time, and those kids skied in their first race, and they were
There were never ever Nordic skiers this year, so.
Tim, one last question. I gave Renee some questions on some checks, but there's a check for almost $5,000 to fix a bathroom door at the Pops concert. Some woman got locked in. Is that something we fixed?
Would you like to talk about that?
I don't wanna talk about
Okay. You
Okay.
seem
I'd like to-
you had something to add. Yeah, my understanding is that so we're in the process of replacing bathroom, and Holly's sitting in the back, she knows where I'm going with this. But, so the bathrooms have been identified in areas of priority, places where the public will interact most frequently, so the ones in the cafeteria, and my understanding that at the Thursday performance of the pop concert, we did have a member of the public that struggled to navigate the locking system. Not the individual's fault, it was the mechanism that hung up. So the $5,000 specifically, Holly could speak to that. I don't know exactly what piece of hardware that is, but we are in the process of removing the old stalls and replacing them with newer, updated facilities. So one of them captured a human in the list.
So could I add though, I might know a little bit about this, we won't go into details, but I do want to say that the students and the staff that helped were amazing and to be commended. It was it was very nice, so to be commended.
Bathrooms are great as a student. So
We're
use the new
getting there.
bathrooms,
Yeah.
I appreciate them.
Except for that one stall.
Yeah. All of drama club learned that lesson. I was telling everyone and then I was like, I should tell someone. I forgot. So.
Right. I would thank Holly for that, who has been a cheerleader. We've toured every bathroom in the high school together for safety purposes. And he has been really pushing, replace basic things, but things that students have recognized and appreciated. So I want to thank Holly for all that she's done at the high school. We're getting there, as long as we stop capturing humans out.
Sure, after 3 years or so, I'm getting used to the toughest time slot on the agenda, but I gotta say, that's a tough conversation to follow. So now I'm really feeling like I'm a little bit behind, but I want to start by congratulating the board appointments, especially Mrs. Aiken on her new role as clerk. I know that,
You wanted to write a letter about it.
I have a couple letters, I think I have any letters, just kidding. But I would like to, so I'll try to run through things, pretty, efficiently. Say that, a little bit later, we know that's not gonna happen. So a couple things about testing, as Tim started off, we have a busy, winter into spring for testing at the middle school. We participate in a lot of different things. We're in the middle, we get a little bit of it all. So we did our NAEP assessment. It was completed in February last month. That's the National Assessment of Educational Progress, sometimes referred to as the nation's report card. You might recognize it as that. It tests 8th graders in various subjects, and it went smoothly. It went well. We did have to reschedule a date because of something out of our control. They didn't have enough proctors on the day because they send proctors to us. They didn't have enough on the day of, so they had to pump that date out. But I'll give a thanks at the end of this to Mr. Nicholas because he's my testing coordinator, and I don't know what I would do without him in that role. Because there's a lot of work that goes into the testing coordination, hours of work that is behind the scenes. So there's that. We're also gearing up for the VT CAP, the Vermont CAP assessment, it's a state assessment. We're doing our ELA assessments on 3/26 and 3/27, math on April 2nd and 3rd. We test 8th graders only for science, and that will be April 9th and 10th. We do not do a delayed start in the sense of busing students in at different times or anything, but we do have a bit of a revised schedule to, fit in the testing and trying to fit in other classes, our testing schedule is typically shortening classes so we can have that equity and consistency to fit everything in through the day. So we have those coming up, and then we have our district level assessment MAPS test that we will be doing on May 14th and May 16th, reading and math respectively. And I, again, just want to thank Mr. Nicholas for all his work on coordinating not only those assessments, but also the fall MAP assessment and the winter MAP assessment as well. He does some really amazing work. He's very thorough with this, and this is not something that you wanna, you know, there's, you know, you have to be really careful not to breach testing, you know, confidentiality and other parameters that you're given. So he does a great job. My next thing is we're very busy looking at our middle school transitions. We have, as you guys know, sixth graders that transition to us from the middle school because of our structure. We have seventh graders that also transition to us as their first year in the middle school. So one of my associate principals, Mr. Lee, he attends all visiting schools with a school counselor from the middle school. They talk to teachers. They kind of go over details of course registration forms. And we also offer, through that transition process, we offer some different opportunities for students to get to acclimate to the school and understand the school a little bit better, and families. So we have, I know we have an April meeting, and in the essence of time and everything, I can review some of the dates as these come up, but we have some April open houses for rising sixth graders, a May open house for rising sixth graders, May open house for rising seventh graders, and then we have, and so that's like, those are evening open houses where families and students can come. And then we also have welcome days that students come from their sending school during the school day and can, you know, get a taste of what kind of day in the life in the middle school looks like. We team them up with middle school students. We do some training with the middle school students about how to, you know, work with the students coming in and, you know, to show them around effectively. And we have welcome days for rising seventh graders, also 2 days, and because, you know, there's several schools that we work with, we can't bring them all in at the same time for the visits. So we have 2 days in April for rising seventh graders, and we also have 3 days in April for rising sixth graders. There's more sixth graders that transition to us because a lot of our sixth graders are already with us in sixth grade. And then I have a couple other, maybe a little bit more intriguing and interesting things than testing dates. I have my annual Patriot Challenge Day that will be taking place on May 24th. And I'm telling you, everybody this in advance. I'd love to have, if you've never seen Patriot Challenge Day at the middle school, it is probably one of the things that my esteemed colleague, Mr. Payne, misses the most about the middle school. I'm not saying that sarcastically. You should see him be the MC at some of the events. It was great to have him come up and visit. But it's a longstanding tradition. I've been at the middle school for 17 years. This is my 17th year in that building, and it's been happening besides a brief pause when the pandemic was heavily underway. We've been doing it all those years. It's a series of, it's kind of like a big field day, but with a little bit more purpose, I would say. There's a series of challenges and events, team building, relationship building. It really touches on the Vermont transferable skills that we teach to students: problem solving, integrated thinking, communication, etc. There's a theme of the amazing race that we kind of, for last year and this year, were, it's like a theme for the day. So there's all challenges in a kind of amazing race format where there's, you know, different places they have to visit. And then there's like, you know, something that they have to construct at the end of it, you know, to win, quote unquote. But the winning is not the important part. The winning is the, you know, all the other stuff that I talked about, the working on the transferable skills, the team building, relationship building. So that is a really fun day, and I would love to, you know, have some people come up and visit and check that out. We also have a career fair on April 24th and a family night that we're planning with various topics at the middle school. It's going to be I'm hoping a pretty big event, and that is on the following day on April 25th. So just some cool things happening at the middle school, and I can give some other reminders in April for those May dates that I spoke about. Any letters?
Any questions? We're gonna move on to committee reports. Is there any committees that met? There was a policy committee. I have an update from the negotiation committee. There is a tentative agreement with both the teachers and the support staff for 2-year contracts. They're in the process currently, I think, of going back and forth and just finishing things up. And when that's done, we'll have a full board meeting, the joint board meetings, to ratify the new contracts for teachers and support staff. I think this year's negotiations went well. It was very civil, and we worked through it, and so I look forward to having that type of negotiation in the future, but. All right, chair's report. Do people have the energy to just talk about the committee assignments quickly, so we can pick committee assignments? It looks like, we have ag land, education, finance, food service, administrator negotiations, and then the teacher and ESP negotiations and policy. I don't think we need the teacher ESP because given the timeline for just given that we have a tentative agreement. I'm not sure when administration negotiations come up again.
I could check, I don't have this.
Okay, we can table that.
Whenever it's marked. Yeah.
How often does the ag meet? Do you know?
A few times a year, and it tends to be different times of the year. They meet more frequently depending upon, what's
Yeah, I
an
sit on
initiative
that.
going on.
I think we do not meet every month. I think that we do 3, maybe 4 meetings throughout the year. But it's, and you're right, Renee. I mean, sometimes when there's a need, with a decision of something that needs to be looked at, we will have an additional meeting. That's not, I think it's 3 times a year that we meet.
In education, how
Athletics and activities, and meets, would like to meet more often, but haven't necessarily had the opportunity, and we lost
a lot
of 2 of our committee members in the middle of the year, so we haven't really been able to meet, but probably every other month,
Okay.
I'd say.
Finance, we largely integrated the finance committee last year into the full board for the purposes of the budget, so I think we could assign people, but I personally, unless, you feel a need to have that, I think it's helpful to have the full board educated, so it's not redundant, but so that would be my preference, and then we have food service. Is there negotiations for that this year, or is that?
No, it'll just be a contract renewal, and I think that, Food Service Advisory Committee meeting warning just came out today. Committee's meeting Tuesday here at 3:30. There is a Zoom option. And they're always looking for folks to attend, not just necessarily folks that sign up for the board, from the board, but parents, students, community members, like it's open to everybody.
And then policy, I think, Leanne, you could probably speak to it better because you've been serving on that for many years. This is one of the most critical functions of the board to understand.
That is absolutely correct. Do anything without making sure that we have a policy in place. It is our way of making sure we understand what directions the schools are going in. We have administrators that take care of managing the schools, but as a board, our primary function is to make sure that we have policies in place and act as a conduit to the public in terms of their concerns and putting them in procedures. That has been always priority for everybody, and everybody, it's the responsibility for every board members to know all of the things about what goes on and what procedures are in place and how that information get out. So the board, the policy committee is we signed on to be joined with the SVSU, and so that committee meets monthly, and we do put off a bunch of meetings in between. So we decided we weren't going to meet till April from that committee, but we need participation on that. And I can't say it enough, the value of having to know what policies and procedures you put in place. And if you don't do anything, finance is going to take care of itself. And I say that because there's laws and regulations that are governing how we do the money, and everybody's looking at the money. Everybody, and we have rules in terms of education, by which we've given the schools the responsibility through the superintendent to administer the education of the kids. But the policy piece is left for the board to make sure it looks at what it is that we need to be doing and how we're doing it, and making sure that we keep that connection with parents out there in terms of the conduit. And that's, I can't say enough that that's a very important move. That's what we.
So I believe we need 3 people on the policy committee. It looks like we could have 3 or 4 on the eds. If we don't fill the finance, because we're gonna integrate it into the full board. Do people have preferences? I guess this isn't a time, I was just gonna fill it in and that way we can be done, like to be.
I would like to continue.
Please, thank you.
I'd like to be on that board. Me as well.
Education, okay.
Are you leaving me, Dave?
I'd like to be on the edge. And just know the committee and kind of keep an eye on athletics.
I'll continue on policy.
On policy,
I'd like to join policy.
okay.
If that's okay with me.
Well, yes,
Would you be willing to stay on policy?
stay on policy, yes.
We, another spot on education, and we have ag and food service. I'm happy to take. I don't know.
I'd like to do the educational as well, please.
I'll do ag.
You wanna do it? I can do food service for that, yeah. And do we need multiple people on food service? Is that, there's 2 spots for food service, so if someone has an active interest in that. As, we'll talk about, we have, just leading into this, we have 3 open board seats currently. We have 2 in Pownell and 1 in, North Benton. So I think what I wanted to do to say to the public is to submit letters, email either the district or myself, by.
I don't write those, right?
You don't have to. I think we have by the 27th of March, because that,
30 days.
we have 30 days
Yep.
from the election, correct? Or from,
That hasn't been clarified, so we have other boards that are taking action from the date of their meeting.
from the date of the, from 30
So
days from
today, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. 2 previous meetings, that's what they went.
We can give, how about, but through, by March 29th, any resident of either Pownell or North Bennington that has an interest in the board, just submit a letter for myself or central office. And we will bring the people that are interested to the board and have the board decide at the next meeting, assuming that it falls within 30 days. If not, we'll have a special meeting.
So 30 days from today.
Yeah, we'll have a special Zoom meeting if it, the timing of April break in our board meeting, things like that, I was just trying to decide.
Yes, it does fall on that week.
But so perhaps somebody from, if we do get somebody interested in the seat, they can fill the other seat.
What are the seats? I missed that.
Food service, we have food service, we have, I'm sorry, the open seats, we
Yeah.
have 2 in Pownell and 1 North Bennington. And they would be, the term would be until next election, and they would have to run for those seats at the next election. Okay, great, so I have Scott on agriculture, we have Chayla, Scott, Dave, and Kristen on education, on food service. You'll let me know if we need administrative negotiations, and we can talk about that at the next meeting. And for policy, I have Katie, Glenn, and yeah, so.
Are the chairs of the committees staying the same?
Do I have to pick that?
Reorganized
on the-
assigned.
Oh, they were assigned?
Yeah.
Chairs are voted on the sub.
Okay, in the subcommittee, perfect. That, I appreciate everyone saying here.
Yeah, well, I'll do this under your report, under the chair's report. At the annual meeting, there were comments made that need to be addressed concerning the money that shaped out and being able to explain the money as to where it went so that the taxpayers could really understand that. And I think that this board can, not this board, but the administration can easily address those issues. And I'll give you some examples. Several years ago, we were deep and problems with the word bullying and not having enough security, not doing all these things. We put a lot of money into these things, a ton of money. You don't hear that now, but you're not addressing it. We didn't address how we are spending the money in our budget when we came up to the annual meeting that says, hey, we don't have these problems because we took care of them. If you go into high school, and if you go into middle school, and if you go into the RGB board and so forth, you got people that are really out there making sure that they take care of all the interests that everybody is concerned about. And that cost us. And we didn't play that number up like it should have been to address that for the people that are supporting our budgets. So if you're talking, I didn't want to tie this in. People need to know that if they know where their money is going into and the issues have been resolved, then they're more likely to support other things that you want to have. And you talk about the fields, but we didn't play that other part out there and talk about where all the money went. And that's where we're losing some people. The issues have gotten solved. I don't see them anywhere. And I'm saying we are doing a great job. I actually thought that we should, with Mr. Lee talked about certain things. I said he should be up at the annual school board meeting, talk about what Bennington is doing as a whole to manage all these things, because you don't have the problems that you used to have because we have addressed them. The administrators and everybody has come together. We provided the funds, we addressed the issues, we resolved them. Now we got to go out and make sure everybody know that who we are and who we stand for, so that we can draw people to this town and then get more of the issues that you want to have done, because you are making it such that when your students leave this area, and I go to the colleges because I'm one of the guys that go from college to college and do sports, and they want to know certain graduates from Mount Anthony, they want to know where did they come from? And they're not talking about the sports, but they're talking about the academic part. These kids are excelling in the college levels out here, even though they played in the sports. The colleges want to know, can they get some more of those students? But we are not talking about those students like we should. So I just wanted to throw that out there and say, hey, we got some work to do. And I mean, it's an opportunity. We can just keep going, but it's an opportunity to do a lot. And we're doing a lot, but we ain't selling
We're not
it.
talking about it.
We're not selling it, and you gotta sell it, and then things will start to change.
Does any?
Oh, last thing,
Okay, and
we have CAT TV. I mean, we have the, I was going to say this earlier. The law passed in terms of holding a joint meeting. We gotta have it by Zoom, and we have it in person. The problem is when you talk in here, I didn't say, hey, I'm Leon Johnson. Nobody don't know who everybody else in here. I see people that I've never really seen. We've changed, we've done all kinds of things. I don't know who you are. So we need to strengthen that relationship and saying, wait a minute, who's speaking right now? So that the people in the community know who represent them. Because they watch CAT TV. I get the calls all the time. They watch it, but they don't know who's talking.
good point. We can talk about how to change that a little bit, or things, or identify ourselves at the beginning of the meeting. Yeah, I mean, it's not back in the day, when Southwest Taxpayers had green cards, like.
Yeah. COVID messed up a lot.
Yeah, great, thank you, Leon, for your thoughts, and I think that those are great things that we should work on.
You.
All right, anything else? I have a motion to adjourn.
Chance for a second.
On favor? Thank you.